AI can't dig a hole. No, AI can't dig a hole, but if you set up an SOP, AI can set that SOP up and tell you how to dig that hole. They can help take a lot of that middle management out. You hear all these guys, I'm running 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million. Well, if you're running 10 million and making 10% net profit,
Yeah.
and I'm running 5 million making 20% net profit, what's the difference? Somebody's got a lot more headaches.
You're listening to Landscape Business Growth Lab podcast. I'm your host, Ron McCabe, founder of Everbearing Services. On this podcast, I uncover the landscaping and outdoor living industry's best kept secrets. You'll hear exclusive interviews with industry innovators, discover cutting edge strategies from the fastest growing businesses in the green space. We're also going to explore game-changing technologies that are at the tip of the shears. This is where seasoned landscapers and those who are just breaking ground in the industry grow together. Let's roll out the green carpet. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the Landscape Business Growth Lab. I'm Ron McCabe, founder of Everbearing Services. This is the show where landscaping business owners share what it really takes to build a company that lasts. Today, I'm sitting down with Bill and Carole Ticer, the husband and wife team behind B&C Landscaping out of McKinney, Texas. Bill started B&C in 2001 with a mower in the back of his pickup. Today, they're running a multi-million-dollar operation serving residential and commercial clients across the DFW Metroplex. We talk about the years they intentionally stayed small, the decision in 2021 that changed everything, going from 15 commercial properties to 150, bringing their daughter in to run marketing, losing 12 employees in 2 weeks during a cultural reset, and walking away from a 23-year client to build a healthier business. Let's go to it. Bill, you started B&C in 2001 with a mower in the back of the pickup, but this wasn't your first time in the green industry. Can you take us back?
Yeah, I actually got started in the green industry with what back then was called Chem Lawn. And I started, I believe, in 1984, worked there through 89. Got out of the business for about 12 years and went into the automotive industry and decided I just didn't like that anymore. And I come home one day and told my wife, I said, I'll mow yards and dig holes for a living before I do this again. And mind you, I didn't even own a lawnmower at the time. We paid somebody to mow our yard. So this is my second go around in the landscape industry, and a little over 25 years now.
Wow. So Carole, you came in from IT and joined in 2011. Kind of what did you walk into?
Well, to tell you the truth, I had been helping kind of on the back end of the business a lot over the years anyway, because Bill couldn't do it all by himself. So it wasn't a whole lot different. It's just basically I wasn't prepared for the amount of employee issues and how different it was handling those employee issues than what I had been used to in corporate America in the IT industry. It was definitely a cultural difference.
You think?
So there's a lot of challenges, and I think that Bill and I have worked together to kind of get through those and come up with a good set of policies and culture that we want for our company, and we're working towards that.
Cool. Yeah, I know in 2009 when I left kind of a professional corporate environment and technology as well, I felt like I was entering the Wild West. It's like all this crazy stuff that we deal with, running these smaller businesses that you would never imagine dealing with in a corporation.
Yeah, it was mostly the amount of occurrences and things that would happen that were tolerated in this industry that definitely had not been tolerated in the industry I was in.
Right. No, they don't have any sense of humor with what you were doing. So you stayed under 1.2 million for years on purpose. What was that about?
Well, we were raising our kids. Our youngest son graduated high school in 2015. And so from 2001 to 2015, Carol and I both wanted to be involved in as much and as many of our children's activities as we could. We have also been caregivers for both of our parents since 2007. Since 2007, and that required a lot of our attention. Even after my youngest son graduated high school in 2015, I had Carol's mom. Her dad had already passed away. Well, her dad passed away in 2016. Her mom lived with us through the next few years until the Alzheimer's got so bad that she had to go into a memory care. And then, of course, my mom's been with us all along. So, yeah, it really wasn't until 2021 that we said, hey, it's time for us to start, scaling this business and doing what we know we're capable of doing.
That's great. I mean, as far as your kids, you can't get that time back. And I think that was great that you guys had that priority. And again, not a lot of people will make the sacrifice taking care of your parents. That's great. You guys did that. And I don't know. I think that's kind of the right priorities personally. But you said, in 2021, things shifted. You described an event in Nashville that changed how you saw the business. What happened and kind of what made you decide to do things differently after that?
Well, I hate to even admit this. In February of last year, I'm sitting on my couch, my recliner, and I'm reading a lawn and landscape magazine, and I see this ad for a lawn and landscape event in Nashville in May, and I'm a huge country music fan. And to be honest with you, I was really going more for the country music event than I was the lawn and landscape conference. But little did I know how much I was going to learn when I got there. The folks that we met that were just awesome. We ran into Lex Mason with Weathermatic, and we ran into a few other neat guys and got introduced to a lot of things that we had not been introduced to. Do what, Carol?
Mark Bradley.
Yeah, Mark Bradley. And boy, things just started taking off. Implementing AI, joining Leanscaper, joining SmartLink, disruptors, how things would run in their area. Because now we get to talk to people not just all over the country, but all over the world.
Wow. Well, and one thing that's always impressed me about both of you is your willingness to kind of evolve and change. You're not like set in your ways.
He has been for a long time.
Sorry?
I said he has been for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, Ron, it's like I was saying.
It was years of me reading the Lawn and Landscape magazine, trying to get him to go to conferences, and he was like, "Oh no! Y'all used to go to conferences when you worked in IT, and it was all a waste of time." Blah blah blah. So I'm glad that we went, and his attitude changed toward it, and his outlook has changed a lot. And we go to a lot of conferences now. We get a lot of good feedback, and we've met a lot of good people.
And not only are we getting good feedback, we are implementing what we're learning.
Yeah, no. So that's kind of why I wanted you to talk with us, is because I'm seeing your company really constantly evolve and change and implement new things. So you mentioned Weathermatic. We're going to talk about Leanscaper in a minute, but those contacts outside of Leanscaper, kind of what were the top things you learned there, or things you gained? So tell me a little more about that.
Well, I think, first of all, we met Justin White and with Disruptors, and we had some small, conversations with him that were kind of outside of the conference, and we've learned a lot. And he had a lot of things that were in common with us. With he took it over from his dad. We have our son trying to want to take it over, and we listened a lot to a lot of the things he was implementing and how he handled things, and figured out, okay, there's got to be some things that we can implement that it will work for us as well. I think we also. We met with Lex Mason, like we said, with Weathermatic, and we sat down and met with them because they're actually located here locally where we are. And then in the conversations, the other conversations we've had, we just learned little things like to implement. Like we we were wasted a lot of time. Employee waste was a big, huge category that we're spending 15 minutes to an hour of waste per day per crew, stopping at convenience stores and saying they were getting gas, but they were really there for other reasons and would take forever. And so we implemented on-site gas tanks, and that was kind of an investment. We were a little worried about that, but you know what? And then we started telling them we were going to dock them, and it just went away.
One of the first guys we met, and I have to give him credit, and I may butcher his last name, Ed LaFlamme,
Yeah,
with Harvest Group.
that's true.
We met Ed in Nashville. He come sat at our table, and Ed knew everybody. Ed introduced us to Lex Mason. He introduced us to Bill over at
Bill Bonneau over at Boss.
At Boss, and a few others. And we were already looking for a new CRM because the one we were currently using was more so designed for a lawn care company doing weed control and fertilization than a landscape company. We hooked up with them pretty quick and started loading and implementing their system, went live January 1 with it, and not without a challenge, but we're up and running on it and learning more each day.
Cool. Yeah, just like the gas tanks and all of that. When you think about the logistics of running a landscaping business and you're sending all these guys like out in trucks and you want them to do the same thing over and over again, it's pretty interesting. If you think of it that way, it's pretty crazy, what you're doing.
It is, and I think that, I know you said we get to Landscaper here in a little bit, but I mean, the implementation of SOPs so that we can try to get consistency across the crews for that very same reason.
But one of the biggest challenges we had was, and you wouldn't think it would be a challenge, but it was implementing the fuel tanks out there. And the reason being was we were using a gas company card that, if you ran it from May 1st or May 31st, you were sent the end of the bill on May 31st, and it wasn't due till, June 31st. Yeah, and we were running, $16,000 to $18,000 a month in fuel. Now all of a sudden I owe them $32,000 to $35,000, and then the fuel tanks that we ordered, we get gas on a Friday and it's due by the next Friday. So we were getting double dipped there for about a 3-month period, trying to get steak. Yeah, so that was very
was a big
tough
challenge, yeah.
On cash flow and doing all of that in late August when things are starting to slow down a little bit.
Well, it's like you probably had less gas going out maybe, but your revenue is going down too. So.
Yeah,
Playing catch
exactly.
up.
During that time,
And it took like a 3-month period to get back on track. I don't regret it at all. It's the best thing we ever did. Matter of fact, we just got another fuel tank with mixed oil in it. And so, yeah.
Cool. Well, Ed, so you brought up Landscaper a lot, right? And, kind of let's talk about the growth that you had when Landscaper entered the picture. And, for the folks that don't know what it is, can you talk a little bit about what it is and then kind of what made you pull the trigger?
We learned about Landscaper, and Landscaper is a group of like-minded folks in the landscape business that was started off by a gentleman by the name of Mark Bradley, who was in the landscape business for a long time, sold his landscape company off, opened up a software company, CRM for landscapers, sold it off. And now his goal is to help landscapers take the chaos out of everyday business and landscape industry by implementing processes, procedures, and creating clarity. So we've learned a heck of a lot. And, the things he teaches on a weekly basis, it's like, wow, that's hitting close to home. And it was a little tough pulling the trigger because it's not a cheap service, okay? And I was very skeptical about it. I'm telling Carole, how in the world am I going to get an ROI on this? Well, little did I know how much I was going to learn.
Yeah.
And I think, it maybe took a month or so to see that ROI, but we immediately started implementing things. But Mark will be the first to tell you, if you're going to come to our classes and you're not going to listen and you're not going to implement, you may as well save your money.
Right. Well, and I don't know, for something like that, I would think 6 months or even a year to get any kind of ROI. So you were starting to get ROI after the first month?
It was probably more like 3 months of after implementation of things. Yeah. But we were super overwhelmed for probably the first 30 days. The amount of information that was just totally, it was just so valuable that it's like, wow, this makes so much sense. We could do this and we could do that. But then, going to these meetings is great and learning all this stuff is great. And it's great that we agree with it and know that it can make a difference. But what are we doing to make a difference? It took us to the second month to say, okay, we're going to implement this. We're going to implement this. And I don't know. I'm one of those that I'm just like this sounds great. Let's do it. Let's let's see how it works. He's more of my thinker. And he wants to contemplate and plan it out, and I'm more like, let's just do it. And so I think that I might be in agreement that we might have tried to take on a little too much in a short period of time between, the fuel tanks, the company culture that we, redefined and shared with the group, the core values that we developed, the mission statement, the vision, the weekly meetings that we started having, the huddles that we started having, the SOPs, the integration with Lana, the implementation of a new CRM. We just threw a lot out there in a very short period of time, and maybe like 6 months. And
it was a lot.
And our people were just like, what are we trying to do new now?
Little whiplash going on.
Exactly.
It was, and that's kind of what led to culture change, which led to, like I was telling you, 12 people leaving in a short period of time.
How did you deal with that?
My hair wasn't white
He didn't
until
deal with it at all.
No, yes, I did.
He was angry for a long time, going, oh, my people left. Because most of the 12 that had been here had been with us for like over 15 years.
Yeah.
So it was talent, it was longevity, it was all of that we lost.
I'm a pretty loyal guy, and I'm loyal to my people, and we lost all of our experienced people, especially on the landscape side. One of the guys has been with me for 22 and a half years. But at the same time, all those guys also, they didn't respect anybody else. And they thought they could treat me, Carole, other employees, however they wanted to treat them. And that wasn't working. And so when we started pushing back, going, no, we can't do that. This is the culture we're creating. They basically just come to me and said, hey, y'all are having too many rules and guidelines now. We can't work for you anymore. And I'm kind of thankful in a way, because it was going to eventually get to the point that we were going to have to make that decision for them.
Right. So they kind of made the decision for you.
Yes. What? And the things we were implementing, they were the only ones pushing back. And so we'd say, okay, this is going to be part of your job. We have to do this. Well, then they wouldn't do it. We said, we're not doing that. So
that doesn't work at all.
It was going to have to come to a point anyway. So it's kind of like they took care of it for us.
It was coming to a head, and it is what it is. And to be honest with you, the remainder of the crew that was left was so much happier.
And the new people we brought on were pretty much shifted. Another thing from Mark Bradley's conferences is, we've shifted more towards, don't really necessarily hire for the experience, hire for the culture and the person that's going to fit into the culture, because you can teach the other.
Can't fix character, right?
That's right. And I think that was very hard, especially for Bill to swallow, because for a long time he was always hiring for the experience and saying, we'll make them fit, fix the attitude, but that didn't work.
Somebody told me once that, because I'm pretty loyal too, is that you don't get rid of people for yourself. You do it for the people that are still there, I guess, because it's hard on them when other people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's like you basically had cancer cut itself out.
Absolutely.
Well, ironically, and it's funny you mentioned that, is our operations manager come to me a few months ago and he said, Bill, I never told you this. He said, but you don't know how much it meant to me that you did all of this. He goes, because I was ready to leave because there were too many cancers here. And
Wow.
I just didn't like how things were going. And now I see that you guys truly care. He goes, not that you didn't care then, but you truly care. You're holding everybody accountable
That was the
now.
thing, yeah.
And he's right. We were not holding anybody accountable. We had our Thursday morning meeting with all our crew this morning, and I hate dealing with conflict, but that's part of it. You got to those conversations
Those
you don't like.
difficult conversations.
Yeah, those difficult conversations I don't like having, but I'm finding myself having to have them more than what I would like to.
I was gonna say, I put that in my dirty 30 category. Like every job that you have has like 30% you don't like, no matter what it is. And if you're going to run a company, that's part of the dirty 30.
It is that Carole uses the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time things are probably going to rock along pretty good and everything's going to go fine. 20% of the time it's not, or you're going to have to deal with things you may not want to deal with.
You just have to be prepared for the 20%.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I like for her to deal with it way more than I do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I
It's
mean,
always for the best, right?
yeah. So I'll be honest with you. I told you that the biggest thing with me was the employee issues when I first came on board. So now that we've started doing these SOPs and we're holding people accountable and things like that, in 24 of the 25 years of business, Mr. Ticer has never written up an employee. And in the last 3 months, we've probably done over 20 write-ups.
Wow.
And
That's like a huge change.
I'm just saying. And you know what? I think when we started it, the employees were just like, what? Because they've never really been held to that level of accountability.
And most of it was just for I say small stuff. It's coming in consistently 5 minutes late. And it's like this morning I told the guys, if you are consistently 5 minutes late, you're not respectful of your job, of anybody around you, because you know what would change you from being 5 minutes late? Leaving 5 minutes earlier. It's just plain and simple as that. If you were coming in 5 minutes late, maybe once a month or once every few weeks because of traffic, that's one thing. But when you know you're supposed to be here by 6:15 and you show up at 6:20 every morning, that's just laziness.
Right. Right. So you've brought up SOPs a few times, and personally, my company, uses SOPs too. But how, kind of what does that look like for you guys, and how are you implementing it?
Well, I use Lana, which is the AI agent landscaper, and I use her a lot. And we basically just create SOPs for anything and everything that comes up that we don't have a written process for. And then once we got to a point to where there was like so many of them, I'm like, okay, now we need to kind of organize that. So we kind of have them organized in different sections now. And one of the biggest sections we are trying to work on more, which has become more important, is because we lost that talent that we were talking about. So a lot of our people are, I call them the newbies. So they don't have a lot of experience. Training has become even more important now to be consistent across the crews, because we've got the crews versus the crews that have been here a while. And then we've tried to mix up, the crews where we don't have a whole crew that's all new. We've mixed up the tenure with both sides. So we're trying to build a training program now that's, for onboarding, and also especially over the winter when we have some more downtime, getting some serious training sessions set up. And a lot of that, we use those SOPs to help implement that.
So do you feel like when new team members come on without experience, it's going a lot better now?
It is, but we still have a long ways to go.
Yeah, we still got a ways to go. I think we've got to, as Carole was saying, come up with that training programs that when we hire that person in their first day, combination of classroom and on-site experience, and we're not there yet, but we will be there.
Cool. Cool. And just on Lana, I hear a lot about it. And so you've got the SOPs. Are there any other like features or things that have helped you out?
Yeah, so we use the morning huddles. We implemented that probably about 6 weeks ago. And basically I have a list of questions that each of the crew leaders has to answer. They have to say out loud and then answer it. Things like, is your gas filled up? Do you have your gas tanks on your truck? Do you have all the equipment you need for the day? Is your tractor full of gas? Do you have weed eater line? Do you have edger blades? Do you have everything you need on the truck? Are all your people here? Are all of them logged in and clocked in? And are you familiar with what your route's going to be today? The expectations of how long it's going to take at each property and when you're due back in. Do you have anything that, as a landscaper kind of calls them blockers, do you have any blockers that, are going to keep you from doing your job that you're intended to do today? And then basically, what were your wins from yesterday? From yesterday's route, what were the things that went well and what didn't go so well? And basically, all of that goes into a file and it's summarized by Lana to different lean boards. We have one set up for the mechanic. We have one set up for our operations manager. We have one set up for me and Bill. So like if they say in the huddle, if they were to mention, oh, my truck has a tire that needs to be replaced in the near future or whatever, if they have any blockers that they say are any kind of problems like that, then it goes to our operations manager. If they say we're out of weed eater line and we went to go get some and there's none in the cabinet or something like that, then that goes to our mechanic also, because he's our shop foreman and makes sure that we have that replenished. We're pretty much 100% at doing morning huddles successfully now. 2 weeks ago, we implemented midday huddles. So that's kind of to let us know at the middle of the day, has anything major happened? Did you break a window? Did you get in a wreck? Did you run into a big wreck on the highway that put you 45 minutes behind? Is there anything that's going to prevent you from doing the rest of your day in a timely fashion? Did one of your guys get sick and have to leave? Things like that, so that we know, so that we can kind of gauge the rest of the afternoon on how it's going to go. Is it going to be they're not coming in until 9:00 at night because they got to finish or what? So we're about 75% there on the midday huddles. And then next week, we're going to implement the afternoon huddles. And that's like at the end of the day, I got 1 stop or 2 stops left, whatever it is. That's the time frame we're kind of heading towards. This is what I got done. I am going to finish. Everything's fine. I'm going to fuel up my truck. Everything's going to be good. I'm going to load it up with what I need for tomorrow, and we're going to be good to go. Or I ran into this and I'm not coming in until 9:00.
And this has not been the easiest thing for our crew leaders to accept. It has taken a lot to get them.
How did you get them on board?
Well, we basically, they already have iPads. So every crew leader has an iPad and it has their route on it. So they already have to do our CRM, check in and check out, take before and after pictures and things like that. And it has their route on it. We also, which hasn't been fun, but as we continue to get more and more property management companies that have their own apps, they have to double dip. The crew leaders do. They have to use our app and put in our CRM the before and after pictures. Then they have to use the customer's app and do before and after pictures, or else we don't get paid. So it's kind of double duty. So basically, I just added another app by loading Landscaper on there, and it comes up to their huddle screen, and they just click start. They record the huddle. They answer the questions that they have on the iPad that tell them for which huddle they're doing, what the line of questioning is, and then they hit stop, and it records it and sends it off. But I have to admit, and another thing is, there was a language barrier, obviously. So, because a lot of ours speak Spanish, and we do have a couple of crews that predominantly speak Spanish. Now, Lana does all languages and translated it into English for us when it comes to the.
I heard about that. Does that work pretty well?
It does. It's fabulous. It is. It's great.
Wow.
But the problem is like, in the beginning, like teaching them how to use the app, in which, I mean, even though it's in Spanish, because I don't speak Spanish, then it's hard for me to train them how to use the app to do it. So I had to use our operations manager who's bilingual to kind of, as an intermediary person, to help do that. And some of them are just not computer literate. So if they get logged out, they're like, oh my gosh, how do I get back in?
But the question, of course, was how did we, get them to do this? We started off in a very positive manner. I started rewarding the crew leaders who were doing
That's true
it
too,
correctly in front of everybody at a crew meeting every Thursday morning. That, hey, congratulations, Ernesto's group. You've done everything right. Here's $100. Take your guys out to lunch, or here's $50, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, especially when you hand out a $100 bill, you will get a few other crew leaders looking at you going, well, what the
That's
hell?
not fair.
So all of a sudden, a lot of them started doing it, and we started rewarding a lot of them. And then the ones who still were having trouble with it, we unfortunately did have to bring them in and say, look, guys, this is not an option. This has to be done. If you can't do it, you will be written up. And if you still don't do it after being written up, then I have to find somebody who can do this. This is not what we want to do. Where do you need help in learning how or understanding how to do this? Is it that you don't understand, or is it you just don't want to do it? Because if you just don't want to do it, then that's fine. I got to find somebody who will. And that kind of changed the remaining 2 or 3 that were struggling with it.
So, wow. That's no small feat.
No, it's not.
No, it wasn't. That was a tough one though. And with those old cancers we had, it would have never gone
Oh,
over.
they wouldn't have done it. Yeah.
So you really kind of pushed some rocks out of your way to
Absolutely.
kind of
Some
hit the next
boulders.
level.
Some-
Well, and really a theme throughout this whole discussion is, you didn't just grow the business, you invested in yourselves with training, the Landscaper Accelerator conferences. Then you did the Justin White's Disruptors Mastermind. What made you kind of go for it like that? And kind of what did you get out of it that you couldn't have otherwise?
And I think just the fact that we were around folks who understood what we were going through and had been there, because there are companies that are a lot bigger than what our company is. There's companies that are a lot smaller than ours. And, I want to be able to pass on to folks that are maybe a little smaller than we are, how we may have handled something that may work for them or may not as they continue to grow their company. And, I'm able to get on the phone, email, text, and text some of these guys and go, hey, guy, can you give me some pointers on this? I'm not for sure where to go.
I mean, it's really a support group.
Yeah, pretty much really is.
We've just built a support group, and it's almost like our own little family, our little landscaping industry family. And it feels like you can depend on others to help us out that have faced similar issues.
And what I like about it is it doesn't matter whether you're the president or owner of a $100 million a year company or the president and owner of a $500,000 a year company. Nobody acts any different.
Yep.
I mean, I've not seen anything any different. You get the same respect from any of them.
Yeah, no, I believe that. And Carole may relate to this as well, but I did kind of one of the more intense part of IT, disaster recovery and security stuff. And for the most part, a lot of the guys I worked with, I don't know that I'd want to hang out with them, but in landscaping, I might be a little embarrassed about my house being unkept or something. But if somebody showed up at my door, I don't know about you, I can't think of anybody I wouldn't welcome in.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I think our employees have seen a big difference in us. Just because they see we are trying. We ask them in our meetings, what we can do to help them out, and come up with things that might help make their job easier. And we've implemented, half a dozen different things for them. And we pick employee of the month, crew of the month, and we put little plaques up on the wall. We hand out gift certificates or money to them when we do this, and they pay close attention. You wouldn't think anybody would give 2 cents about a little plaque, but
They
I'll
do.
tell you what they do. They truly do.
If we give out gift cards, or every Thursday we have a raffle, and we give them $20 a piece for twice, and then we do another raffle for like some swag.
And maybe a baseball cap, maybe a
It's just amazing
pair
how
of
excited
gloves.
they get over the smallest things.
Well, it's like, I think it's better to like go into a job in a game state where it's just kind of fun and fun things happen, and than where you might do the same things, but if stuff like that doesn't happen, it's not nearly as rewarding.
Well, and we used to do cookouts all the time, and some of the cancer that we got rid of, I quit doing cookouts very often because, sometimes I'd do fajitas, sometimes we would do hot dogs and hamburgers, and I had a half a dozen of them come in and go, "Oh, no fajitas today? Why hot dogs? Why hamburgers?" I'm like, "Well, you don't have to eat it if you don't want it."
It was just unappreciated.
It was very unappreciative, and we still do. We do it at least quarterly events where we have,
Well, now
cookouts.
we do like volleyball games, or
Yeah.
we do a swim, a pool party, or things like that. Some soccer or whatever it is, and it was just blew
Creates a-
my mind how much the employees get into it. They're like, "Oh yeah," and they're talking smack about each other, and
I mean, we put them on teams that they're not normally teamed up with as their crew, so that they're also having to learn to work as a team to compete. So kind of a neat deal. They really get into it, and I thoroughly enjoy watching them having fun because work can't always be just work, 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 work all the time.
Right, right, absolutely. Well, and I'm guessing in some ways your retention went up, and maybe the quality of the employees you can get.
I think definitely the quality of the
Really
employees have gone up. We still make hires that it's like they look good in the interview, they answered all the questions correctly, but then they don't work out. But that's going to happen. I picked up a series of questions that actually Mark Bradley shared through Landscaper that really didn't have a whole lot to do with how they can do the job. I mean, it's a little bit, but it was more about how they handle themselves
in certain
in
situations.
certain situations, and you can learn real quick if they're going to pawn their issues off on somebody else or if they take accountability
Yeah.
for their own actions, and that has helped in the hiring process, definitely.
That kind of makes sense to me. So you really have kind of evolved and improved everything in different aspects, and I know just from knowing you that you're constantly doing that.
And we are, and we're going to keep on doing that. I do think, and Carole mentioned this earlier, we took on a lot very rapidly, very quickly, and I told her we got to slow down a little bit. Let's make what we got right now work, and then let's take that next step again. I think we were just so excited of all the things we were seeing. I mean, we demoed autonomous lawnmowers. We've demoed battery powered lawnmowers, and I can see us making decisions on those in the next couple of years. I don't think for us at this time it's the right decision, especially since we just spent a couple of $100,000 on other equipment. I'm not ready to make that move right now.
Well,
But-
and we don't necessarily have the right customer base to maximize our investment
As far as
as far as autonomous and battery
or battery
powered. Yeah.
powered, But I see that that's another wave of the future, and AI.
Yeah.
If you had asked me a year and a half ago what I thought about AI in the landscape industry, I'd have said you're crazy. AI can't dig a hole. No, AI can't dig a hole, but if you set up an SOP, AI can set that SOP up and tell you how to dig that hole, and they can help take a lot of that middle management out.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm personally just constantly dumbfounded by that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I recently ran into an easement issue of all things on some of the real estate I deal with, and I was able to get AI to, kind of act as my lawyer and put together a full legal brief, and you
Wow.
know, and I don't know about you guys, it's like I would have never conceived of being able to do that. It's
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
Well,
crazy.
Carol is known for her famous emails that sometimes come across a little strong. And so now she will put them in Chat GPT before she sends them to make them come across a little nicer. And not that it wasn't nice to begin with, because if she had told that person in person the same thing, it would have come across way different than it does through an email, because you can't really see emotions in an email.
Right, right.
But
Yeah,
everybody
but are
thinks
the,
it's so much nicer now.
Oh, what happened to Carol?
yeah,
Is she on medication now?
Because
yeah,
our
no, it,
son works for us and he's our irrigation manager. So he'll go out there and they'll say, "Is that Carol still there?" And he go, "Yeah, that's actually my mom." And what has she done? Because she's so much nicer now. And he just thinks that's so funny.
yeah, yeah. Hey, so switching gears a little bit, your daughter Kimberly was a teacher, and she came in and took over marketing. Kind of walk us through that. What does that look like?
So Kimberly was a school teacher for 9 years, taught second grade, and she got to where she just didn't love it anymore. It was hard. Kids didn't mind, parents didn't make them mind, principals can't do anything. So we had been talking to her about coming and working with us for a few years. And she finally called me one day and she says, "Dad, are you still looking for an office manager?" Because that's what it was going to be at that time. And I said, "Ironically, your mom just placed an ad on LinkedIn. So if you want to do this, I'm going to have her cancel this ad." And she says, "Yes, can I come talk to you?" And she'd come over immediately. We talked money. She did that for the first year. And then the second year, she come to me in February and says, "Hey, I want to do something more meaningful than just menial work, I want to do marketing." And I'm like, "Well, what do you in the world do you know about marketing?" She goes, "Not a lot, but you know me, Dad, I'll figure it out." And so we sat down for a long conversation, and we were in the process of ending a contract with an outside source that we had been, using. So it was coming to end March 31st. I said, "You put together a plan for me and let's do it. Let's see what it comes up to." So she puts together a plan. I liked what I saw. And boy, she hit it just,
And we said, "You got to realize the marketing side of things is our livelihood. So you can't fail at this."
So she took it on, and then and we replaced her with somebody else. For the first 4 or 5 months, boy, she's really rocking and rolling. But then the first office manager didn't work out. So she got pulled away for a little while. We hired a second office manager, didn't work out. And so,
And the third,
and
and the fourth.
well, no.
Now we're on the fourth.
No, we're on the third.
Now we're on the fourth.
Fourth, okay. Fourth one's doing great. She's back, and now my daughter's back at doing marketing, and she's learning every day. But she was able to generate a little over $1 million in leads that are in leads that turn into over $1 million worth of sales.
Yeah.
Or in her first year, and she probably really only worked maybe 6 months out of the year at doing it.
Because of the amount of time she had to come back and help with office manager. So
Yeah, so I am looking for a lot more increased numbers this year. I haven't really told her what I think she needs to. Well, actually, I guess I
You
did
have.
tell her. I think I told her she needed to hit 2 million this year is when I think I told her. But in leads that, leads that generate
from her,
from her for 2 million.
Yeah.
But one of the big things she did, and I'm not even for sure how she did it, is it started generating more commercial lawn maintenance
Yeah.
leads. And that's where we make our money in maintenance is on the commercial side, not on the residential side. So that has been a blessing, and she takes her job serious, Ben. She gets onto these sales guys' butts when they don't follow up on their stuff. And she's like, "I spent a lot of time doing this to get you guys these leads. Take care of them."
No, that makes total sense. And one thing that stuck out for me, so for me, the social network for commercial is LinkedIn. And, a lot of companies don't focus on that or spend time on it. The quality of the posts that I'm assuming she puts together, it's a lot better than, 90% of the landscaping companies out there.
She's really taken it serious, and between LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, and she has them all scheduled based on our industry, what the industry standard timing is for those posts. And she makes sure everything's scheduled and gets done and is basically meaningful for the season that we're in. So that
Got to
kind
be
of
seasonally relevant.
Seasonally, right? Yeah, absolutely. And she's still learning, and she is a lot like her mom. She enjoys learning. She enjoys new challenges, but she does not enjoy when somebody is affecting how her performance is going to be, And it was a pretty emotional meeting this morning with our sales guys. We had to take a small break.
They didn't meet their goals last month, and she was not happy about that.
We still had a great month, but we just didn't come close to hitting or we didn't hit our goal. I shouldn't say come close. We didn't hit our goals, and they were definitely attainable, and we should have. But I think there may have been a little laziness going on with follow-up.
Well, the follow-ups, it's kind of a grind. It's the hardest part of sales.
It is.
It is, and we are still small enough to where we can't really implement a sales manager at this point. That sales manager is me wearing a part-time hat, trying to stay on top of those guys. I think we got to grow by about another million and a half a year before we are, ready to implement a permanent sales manager, full-time sales manager.
Well, and that makes sense. And I think a lot of companies are in your position. And so you really need salespeople that are kind of self-starters and
Yes.
get out there.
Yeah, and we need more salespeople that understand that it's not just make the sale and then walk away. You have to make the sale. You have to be a part of the implementation, and you have to follow up afterwards. So that part's been a struggle as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had it so good for so long, during the boom after COVID, that I think people just kind of lost some discipline. But we're back to where, they're saying you have to do up to 9 follow-ups, which is different than it used
Well,
to.
yeah, and I want to say Kimberly had just created an SOP not too long ago about 7 follow-ups.
Yeah, at least 7.
At least
7 to
7.
9. Okay.
Yeah, it's what she was telling. Yeah, that's what she put in their SOP. So yeah, it was kind of crazy, but yeah.
Well, good though. It seems like you guys are doing it's just when you look at the breadth of it, you're doing a lot of good things, and so you're aiming for 10 million. You've kind of been clear that it's not about just getting bigger. You want healthy revenue, like profitable revenue. How does that focus kind of change the decisions you're making?
Well, it started out by we making one of the toughest decisions was walking away from a 23-year client
Yeah.
that was providing us $500,000 a year in revenue. It just got to where we were evolving, but they weren't evolving with us. They were kind of going the opposite direction. And so it just ended up being to where we were spending more time and effort staying with them to where there was just they were eating away at the profits because of the amount of time we were having to invest in it. So it wasn't profitable anymore. It wasn't a good situation. So we walked away knowing that we probably won't hit what we want to hit this year. But we now have kind of changed our ICP, our ideal customer profile, and we're saying no to a lot of those that don't meet it. I mean, and you can basically tell from the initial line of questioning and their requirements and our requirements, and whether they're willing to work within our requirements, and we're able to provide them with what they want, whether it's going to work or not. And if it's not, we just say we're just not a good fit.
Yeah. But, like Carol was saying, we lost that $500,000 a year account, which is going to affect our numbers year end as far as revenue goes. Okay. But as we were going over numbers as we were going over revenue dollars yesterday with Carol, myself, and Kimberly, we are still going to come pretty close to that number. I think we're going to be about $150, maybe $200,000 off. And that's after losing a $500,000 a year job. But we are going to have a higher net profit on what we have. Healthier client will make more money off of less revenue.
Yeah. Well, it's not what you get, it's what you keep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like revenue is not the game. It's the profits that are.
Yeah. You hear all these guys, I'm running 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million. Well, if you're running 10 million and making 10% net profit, and I'm running 5 million making 20% net profit, what's the difference?
Exactly.
Somebody's got a lot more headaches.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we need to wrap this up. Both of you have had this incredible journey. When you look back, it's pretty amazing, everything you guys have done over the years. For both of you, this is for both of you to answer is, with everything you've learned, everything you've changed, what's your big takeaway so far?
Love what you do every day. And if you love what you do, it's not as much of a job. Now, what I wish I had done years ago to help grow the business is have a line of credit. Not having a line of credit and growing the business strictly on Bill and Carole savings account, 401k, whatever it may be, has been it's been very tough. But that is really the only thing I think I could go back and say that I would have tried to done a little different. But I truly love creating beautiful landscapes. I like talking to people. I don't like dealing with employee problems, but that's
Nobody does.
But that's that 10 or 20%
But
that
having implemented the culture and the core
that's
values and the
changed.
mission and the vision, and we share that and visit it on a regular basis, the employees are much easier to deal with.
Absolutely.
When we do have the problems
They are.
than the ones in the past.
they are.
Cool. Well, I'm really grateful for the time you guys took today.
Well, we appreciate
Absolutely, we appreciate it.
Cool. So that's Bill and Carole Ticer of B&C Landscaping. If you've got something out of this conversation, do me a favor and share it with another landscape business owner who needs to hear it. Subscribe whenever you listen and leave a review if you've got a minute. It helps us get more owners to find out about the show. I'm Ron McCabe. Thanks for tuning in to the Landscape Business Growth Lab. We'll see you next time. That's a wrap on today's episode of Landscape Business Growth Lab podcast. I hope you picked up some fresh ideas to help your business grow. Remember, growth doesn't happen overnight. It takes the right tools, strategies, and consistent cultivation. If you found value in today's show, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Share this episode with a fellow green industry professional who's ready to level up. For more resources, show notes, and exclusive content, visit us at landscapebusinessgrowthlab.com. And if you want to connect directly, you can find me at Everbearing Services. Until next time, I'm Ron McCabe, reminding you to keep your tools sharp and your mindset sharper. Now get out there and grow something great.